it's time for us to meet our personality of the week. Now, if you're a listener of 97.3 City FM, you would notice that every morning, most mornings, around 7-ish, you know, when there's doing business news and all that, you hear investment advice with someone, a familiar voice, Gillian Hammah. She is the Group Chief Marketing Officer with Databank, and she's right here this morning as our personality of the week. Hi, Gillian. Good morning.
Morning, David. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
It's good to have you here.
Yes, it's nice to be sitting across from you in this setting. So very nice.
How's the morning for you? How's the morning been for you?
Oh,
I mean, I know it's been a bit rainy.
Yes, and traffic and rain don't go well together.
They don't.
I have no idea why. The moment there are even a few raindrops, everything stops.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, it's been a good morning so far. I was helping my daughter to get ready for her school party, which took a lot of time. Because 12-year-olds are oh yes,
they have their own
They're
plans.
at the stage now where they're worried about hair and makeup and shoes and everything. So that time will come.
Well, let's go back to when you were at that stage of your life. Where were you born?
Jamaica. Proudly born in Jamaica.
Which part of Jamaica?
Okay, so Jamaica, Ghana is split into regions.
Yes.
Jamaica is split into parishes.
Okay, parishes.
Yes.
Interesting.
So we've got 14 of them.
Okay.
And I was born in a parish called Manchester. It's right in the middle of Jamaica, kind of very elevated on the hills.
Is that you in there?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that was me and my dad when we were born.
Nice.
So where I was born, think of it as the Ebri of Jamaica.
Okay.
High up, very cool, lovely temperatures.
Okay.
In fact, there are times that it gets so cold that you have to put on a jacket, like a proper winter jacket.
Winter. Okay.
Yeah. So
in Jamaica.
In Jamaica, in a tropical island, it can get very, very cold. So yes, but that was it.
All right. So, what was it like growing up in Jamaica? I mean, what are some of your fondest memories growing up in Jamaica?
Okay. I have a lot, actually. I have a lot of good memories growing up. Number one, I think I'd start with my family. It's a very small family. The town that we were in also is very small. So it's one of those things that everybody knows everybody. But the school that I went to, I really, really enjoyed it because it was actually an American school in Jamaica. And because of that, we got to meet a lot of different people from many different countries because we had a lot of expats on the island, and most of their kids went to that school. So it really gave you good exposure for everything. And it was half boarding, half day school. So I did the day school part. But again, it was just a really nice experience. It had its upsides and its downsides in that, you know, there's always kids, you get into trouble. I remember one time my friends and I decided to sneak out of school. I think we were probably about 15.
Okay.
We tried sneaking out of school, and then we ended up meeting the principal on the street.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And
that's
so,
not a good thing.
No, it wasn't a good thing. We tried jumping into the bushes, but he saw us, called us out, brought us back to school, and then I think he threatened to suspend us, but he didn't actually suspend us. But it was fun. It was fun growing up in Jamaica because also my parents were okay financially. But what was fun about it was that one of the businesses they had was it was like an arcade, an amusement.
Okay.
So it was a go-kart track combined with a mini arcade. So you had lots of different video games, and then upstairs was a nightclub.
Okay.
So there was that, and then my dad also had a large amusement park. It was the biggest in the Caribbean, actually.
Wow.
So between those
the
two
name?
things, that one was called Coney Park.
Coney Park, okay.
Yes.
So I'm sure people watching who know Jamaica would remember.
If they, yes, he finally closed it down, I think mid-90s,
Okay.
and then it became a school. But it ran for many, many years. So we were always busy, having fun.
Yeah.
Too much fun at times, but there are a lot of good memories growing up in Jamaica.
Fantastic.
I really enjoyed
It sounds very exciting. It sounds like you
it
had
is,
fun.
and you know what? Honestly, Jamaica, I recommend that everybody goes. If for nothing else,
Really?
the beaches and the food.
Wow.
We have the best fish ever. I'm sorry, I know tilapia lovers here. They love their tilapia, but you cannot beat Jamaican fried fish.
Wow.
We eat a lot of snapper.
Okay.
And when it is seasoned, it just, you can't beat it.
So what do you think accounts for that? Is it the preparation process, or is it that the fish is just special?
It's the spices,
Okay.
one. It's the salt water of the sea. It also gives it a different flavor. But it's more than anything, it's just the spices and the different kind of herbs that we use. But you can't beat our fish, you can't beat our jerk chicken, you can't beat the jerk pork. I'm sorry, you can't beat any of the food.
Well, let me just say that, I mean, there's a couple of Jamaican restaurants in town. So I have tried, a few jerk
It's still
chicken,
not
jerk
the
pork.
same.
It's not the same, huh?
No,
Oh, I
not the
see.
same, no.
Then the trip has to happen.
It does,
The trip
it
has
does.
to
Let me
happen.
know when you are going.
Okay.
And I will come with you.
Will do. All right. So then let's move forward a bit. So you're about what, 15 now?
Yes.
You're having fun, amusement park, different experiences, a lot of partying and just being happy in life as a young person and all
Yes.
that. After secondary school, what happened?
So I graduated high school a bit early.
Okay.
So I was 16 when I finished school.
Wow.
And so because of
When you
that,
say finish school, so
Like-
this is like what?
graduated 12th grade.
Wow.
I was done.
Okay.
So the problem was I was too young to get into university in Jamaica. So I left and moved to Florida with my dad because by that time my parents had gotten divorced.
Oh, I see.
So I moved to go and live with him there, and then I was able to get into university. So I actually started a bit late because they had to wait for me to turn 17.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So I got in and I lived in the US. I lived in Miami for 2 years where I went to college. During that time, I also worked with my dad because he's a business person through and through. And I think a lot of what I do today and a lot of the habits that I have come from what I've seen with him. But he had then now in the States started a network, a TV network called Caribbean Satellite Network.
Wow.
So it used to feature a lot of Caribbean artists, news, that thing. And it would broadcast to, I think he used to broadcast to the US, South America, and then the Caribbean. So I used to help him there. So even in Jamaica, amidst all the fun, I used to help every summer holiday. I would work in their businesses. In the US, it was the same thing. So the fun life continued. And it just so happened that at the time I moved, because Miami and Jamaica are so close, like by plane an hour and a half.
Okay.
A lot of people I went to high school with also moved there. So it's the whole lifestyle, everything continued there. But I remember one thing my father said, because he didn't really like a lot of my friends.
Okay.
He didn't think they were a good influence on me. Now I can see the truth in that. But I always remember him saying that, Gillian, you have to pick your friends well, because some of these people that you are with, today you see them lying on the couch. Next year, 2 years, you'll come back and they're lying on the couch. And I always remember that because when I left Miami and went to Canada, I went back to visit, I think it was about a year or two later. And that group of friends, the same couch I left them on. They were still there. They hadn't progressed in life, nothing.
My goodness.
And I always remember that couch thing because I said, it really, the friends you choose, it can make or break you. And I saw the difference when I moved out of that setting, moved to Canada, and had a different group of friends. Like suddenly I got serious about life.
Wow.
So in Miami, I was just coasting. Like I really wasn't doing, I was okay. I mean, even as a student, it was okay, but I wasn't great.
Before we transition to Canada, talk to us about the importance of, parental mentoring, or even not only parental mentoring, but just mentoring in general. The importance of that, for young people, in terms of what it is they eventually, turn out to become.
Well, it's so key. Growing up, I didn't have it. So one of the things I love about Ghana that I have seen is there's a lot of mentoring that takes place, more than I've seen anywhere else.
Wow.
So growing up, I didn't have it at all. It was just the advice of my parents. And sometimes the downside of that is when you're young, you think that your parents, you think you know more than them, one.
And that they are old-fashioned and their ideas are archaic.
Exactly. So because you don't have anybody else kind of balancing out what you're hearing, you disregard a lot of the instruction or the counseling that you get. Here, you've got, like, the young people are exposed to it everywhere, from school. You have programs that are set up, everything. It is golden. David, I cannot...
I'm not sure we appreciate it that much, though.
But I am telling you that it can, the impact it can have on your future is absolutely profound. So, thankfully, my mom and I were good friends. Her style of parenting was always one that was more friendship-based.
Okay.
My dad was the stricter one, and he was very lecture-based. Like, everything was a lecture, lecture. But they still balanced each other out. And so in that way, it would help. My mom, she was the one that would spank. My dad would just talk.
Okay.
So there are times that, me personally, I prefer the spanking. Just spank me.
And let's get it over and done with.
Let it go.
Yeah.
On Facebook, I think it was a few months ago, there was somebody who posted a picture of a slipper. And I think the post that went was
what are the uses of this?
Yes. And there was a long discussion, and if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And you know that it's not just to be worn on your foot.
Right?
So it was, my parents had a big influence on me, but if I had to do it all over again, I would have wished I had additional exposure to mentors who could also share their life experiences and help guide it. I didn't have that. So it's just...
Well, you turned out just fine, so hello. Well, let's go to Canada.
Yes.
Right. Why Canada? What was that decision?
So at the time, my mom had now moved to Canada.
Okay.
So she was there with her sisters, and so she moved there, started her own business there. Okay. And so she was it was a Jamaican grocery store that she was running there. Then she was in the process of applying for her permanent residency. And they told her that she needed to go back to Jamaica to finish the paperwork there. Wow. So she said, no problem, got on the plane for what she thought would be maybe a few weeks. It ended up being 1.5 years that it took her. So during that time, now my 2 younger brothers were there. They were in school, and her business was still going, and she had nobody. Yeah. So she asked me if I could go. So that's why 2 years into living in the U.S., I now had to
go to Canada,
move there, and then continue school, but still now start taking care of the business and my brothers. So that was one of the, again, things that helped me to wake up a bit more and just realize that I have to take life a bit more seriously. But it wasn't 100%. Because for the first 1.5 years while she wasn't there, it was a house of teenagers. Okay. So we still enjoyed. We still enjoyed ourselves. And I remember, I think, in life, everybody has moments that kind of ground them or define them. And I remember one night, it was my cousin and then my brothers, we had a party with friends over, and we made a mess of the house. Like, it was just a mess. Everything, like, I don't know why it was so messy that night, but it was horrible thinking about it. Like, there was food, there was everything. It was terrible. And we finished, everybody went to bed. The next morning we wake up, the doorbell rings. And when I open the door, there's my father standing at the door. So somebody had told him we were there partying, and he got on a plane without telling anyone.
Wow.
And came to face us.
Because of course he was living in the U.S.
Yes.
Okay.
So when he came, I remember, because he lectures, likes to lecture you, he sat down and he said, Gillian, you guys, I mean, apart from the fact that he was quite upset, but some of the things he said is, one, your house must always be neat, because you don't know when somebody is going to knock on the door, and you may not have time to arrange it. Yeah. So for me, I am a fanatic about a neat house, even to this day, because of that thing. Like, it shocked me.
Yeah.
And then he spoke about even your person, like the way you carry yourself and everything. He said, I mean, you don't know what will happen to you when you go out.
Yeah.
So make sure that when you get ready and you leave, you are wearing even underwear. It should be proper underwear without holes.
Yeah.
Because if you go somewhere and a car hits you down and they need to take off your clothes, in that time,
how would you look?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So there are a few of those lessons that he shared, and it really stuck with me, and a lot of the things that I do and the way I run my life as an individual person. But so Canada, after that, I think the other thing that it did was it kind of just shocked me into enough is enough.
Yeah.
And I decided, you know what, I'm done. And so I left all of that behind, decided I was going to church. And
you decided to go to church?
I decided to go to church in Canada.
Okay.
So I started off at a Jamaican church. Okay. And somehow I was there, but I didn't really connect. Then a friend from that church told me about another church, which was a Ghanaian church. And I always remember December 31st, 1995. Okay. It was Christmas Eve. They were having New Year's Eve service. I went in, and it was close to midnight, and they were giving testimonies at the time. And I remember somebody saying that when he went to that church, because he had started several years before, he went in and his spirit just sat down. Like, he just felt so comfortable. Like,
this is for me.
That's it. And David, I tell you, that night when I went, the warmth with which those people embraced us, it just, that was it.
Wow. What's the name of the church?
It was All Nations Full Gospel Church. Okay. So All Nations University in Koforidua, same.
Okay.
The pastor is the owner of that. So it just, and that's where I got to know the Ghanaian community, not knowing that's where I would meet my husband.
Tell us about that. Tell us about meeting your husband.
It didn't take too long, actually, but it was interesting because, so I started the church 95, call it end of 95, so call it 96. And I remember I was there, I used to see him, but you know, he was always surrounded by kids. So my mom and I always thought that he was already married and had children and everything. But he was a youth pastor and he loved kids, so they were always following him. But I remember I went to a wedding. I think it was like May or June, 96. And I was there. I don't know in Ghana if the belief is the same, but at least in North America, the belief is if you are at a wedding and they throw the flowers, do people even throw flowers?
Yeah.
Here? They do.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So if they throw the flowers, whoever catches it will get married.
You're the next one in line.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I went to this wedding.
You should see the ladies.
Really?
They are getting ready to catch that flower.
Oh, yes. Like, they can get very aggressive with it.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've photographed for 12 years. So I've watched weddings.
Really?
Over and over. I've shot. See the thing moving in the air. I've done all of that. So I've seen that. Yeah.
So I caught the flowers.
Oh, wow.
I did. I don't know how, but I caught it. And that was, as I said, May or June. In August, end of August, one of the pastors in the church came to me and said, no, in fact, so that happened. And then there was another guy I had been talking to, and he had asked me to marry him. And he had said, Gillian, you know what, go and talk to this pastor and tell him that I've asked you to marry him, and he will say yes. I went to the pastor and said, okay, this is what this guy has said. And the pastor says, absolutely not. Don't go near him. So he said, rather.
He was so confident that the pastor would say yes, though.
I don't know why. You know, he used to work with a pastor. And I think maybe he felt on the strength of that, it would be good. But the pastor said no. And the pastor said, there's somebody else that I would like for you to meet. So he told me to actually go take the book of Ruth, read it.
Wow.
And then I would know what to do. So,
wow.
So I went, took up the book of Ruth and read it. And what I took from it is that, so he told me who the person was, and then he told me to read the book. So I went to read it, and in the story, of course, at the end of it, Ruth wants Boaz, and she goes to lie at his feet. And essentially, she makes the first move. So what I took from it is that, okay, then maybe I should make the first move.
Okay.
So I didn't have many raps like other people, but I had a love for tennis. So I called him up, and Reginald, I called him and I said, okay, I am looking for someone to play tennis. Do you know anybody who would be available? And he says, oh, let me think about it. I'll let you know. And he came back, I think it was about a week or so later, and said, oh, I'll play with you. So I said, okay. So we actually, our first date was on the tennis court. And I still remember what he wore that day.
Really?
Purple, it was matching purple shorts, purple shirt, purple shorts, and these wonderful white shoes that I knew he bought just for that. Just for that, yes. So we played, and then after that we started talking. In so much that by November, we got engaged. So like 3 months later, we got engaged and got married the following July. And he was the only guy my dad...
There you guys are.
Yes, he was the only guy my dad ever liked.
Oh, wow.
Nobody else I spoke to.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, for whatever reason, my dad liked him. And so it became very easy, and I just had to, so everything started to work out. We did our engagement, the traditional, well, it was like a hybrid, but it leaned more to the Ghanaian engagement where, you know, I had to put the cloth over my head, come down the stairs, but we didn't do like the big suitcases and the blender and the cloth and all of
Which
that.
I'm sure you've seen plenty of since you came here.
We just did the Bible, and I think there was like a small suitcase. But I remember that day, that's one of the things when I learned about Ghanaian culture, because my engagement dress, which was purchased for me as a gift by my dad and stepmother, was a long black dress. And I didn't know at the time that for Ghanaians, black is funeral only. In North America, black is elegant. It's classy. That is when you're going. So yes, I did wear a black dress to my engagement, but it's okay. It wasn't, we're still married.
Yes. After how many years though?
Well, actually, what's today's date?
Today is the 9th.
9th. On the 12th, so 3 days from now, it will be 24 years.
My goodness.
Wow. So, yeah.
You're almost hitting your...
so next year, I think it's silver.
Yeah. Wow. Well done.
So it's been good. David, I hear people talk about marriage, and they say marriage is difficult and it's hard. It doesn't always
That's not been your
have to.
experience necessarily.
It really, really hasn't. And going into marriage, I used to think that all men cheated. And my husband showed me that that's not the case. He is a good man. Like, I mean,
shout outs to Reginald.
Yes, big shout outs to Reginald. Like, he turned all the theories I had about men upside down.
Wow.
So, woman, There are good men. There are good Ghanaian men.
Preach it, preach it.
And the other thing too is when we were getting married, at the time, he was still a student.
Okay.
He was doing his PhD at the time. And I remember where he lived, his apartment was so small. Like literally, it was smaller than this stage.
Oh, wow.
It was that small.
Okay. The whole apartment?
The whole, it wasn't even an apartment, it was a room, rather. It was
Wow.
a room. But, so the thing though is that even though he didn't have money at the time, there was something about him that I knew it was just a matter of time. He was going places. And so, again, for me, it's very important that people don't get hung up on how much money you have before you get married. Yesterday, we were doing the radio interview, and I mentioned it because today, he out-earns me, like hands down. I can stop working and we'll still be okay because he earns way more than I did.
Yeah.
But if at the time I had looked at him and said, well, you don't have a house, you don't have a
this,
car,
you don't have that.
all of those
Yeah.
things, so no, I'm not interested, I would have missed a wonderful person. Really, really wonderful person.
Let's transition to career.
Yeah.
So at what point, you guys are married now, at what point do you decide to come to Ghana and then into your now Databank career?
So when we got married,
Yes.
one of the things that he was very, very clear on was that he wanted to come back to Ghana.
Okay.
He always felt that this was home and this is where he wanted to be. So he had told me that, Gillian, at some point, I'll move back to Ghana. At the time, I thought maybe I could convince him that it wouldn't be a good idea. All we needed to do was get married and then I'd sort out the rest. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
So 15 years into marriage, the company he was working for there, because he's an engineer, civil engineer, wanted to set up an office here.
Okay.
And so they asked him to come and set up the office. So that was a perfect transition for him. And so he did that for a year and a half before we all moved.
Joined him, yeah.
So we came here and it was a big move because moving to a new country where you don't know anyone, you're giving up a very good job, everything, it's not easy. But we came and I started just volunteering at my kids' school. So I got to spend a lot of time with them. And then through that, the school hired me to become director of institutional advancement, which simply was looking at all the admissions and what else did I do? All the marketing for it. But that wasn't my core field.
Yeah.
Investments is what I've done all my life. So it's just so happened that I was getting itchy to get back into investments. And there was this posting in the newspaper that some financial services company was looking for a chief marketing officer. Okay. So I applied. Went through 3 rounds of interviews. I remember the first interview was took 2 hours. The second interview, there were 10 people in the interview and I had to do this big presentation. And then the third one where I met the CEO, Kojo. So it was quite rigorous, but I got it, thankfully. And I've been there now 7 years.
Wow.
But all the work that I did along the way has helped me in this job today to really be able to do what I have done. So I love it. Investments is
you.
It's who I am.
Yeah.
It's not what I chose at the beginning. It just happened. I fell into it because it was my first job. But it's one of those things that I've grown into and I've fallen in love with. So it's to even think of doing something else. It's
I see. Interesting. Okay, so let's just wrap up the conversation basically by maybe some words of advice, particularly for the younger folk. I'm thinking you've been through so many different phases, and where you are today looks like a really good place. What would you say to that 15-year-old Gillian if you had the opportunity to talk to her now? What would you say to her about where you're going?
Wow. I think I would say maybe spend more time building relationships and in terms of friendships and everything. That's something that I don't think personally I did very well until very late in life.
Okay.
Where I was always, to a large extent, a loner. I mean, I know people and I talk to people, but I don't go out, I don't do all of those things. And to an extent, I always think it's better to build more friendships and relationships. So I think one of the things I would have done is maybe given more of myself. And part of what keeps you from building relationships is when you're very private, like you don't share.
Yeah.
But somehow when you share of yourself, it opens other people up to you.
Yeah.
And so that I would say, be more open. Don't be afraid to show your weaknesses and you know, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like you can't do everything yourself. So that would be one thing. The second thing would be, which I wouldn't change, is never lower your standards. Like seek to be excellent at everything.
Okay.
You won't hit it all the time, but your overall level of output in whatever you do will be way higher because you're striving for it each time. So don't be content with just being okay or just being average. And then maybe the third thing would be, I think maybe these are more things I know I still need to work on, is that whole side of connecting and being more empathetic. It's a wonderful trait to have. It's something I'm still working on. Like the people that know me, they know that I tend to be more, I'm hard. Like I'm not very yielding, and I admit it, but it's good sometimes to be able to pause and just ask other people how they're doing, think about them, try and connect with them. It helps because one day, really, you'll need somebody for something. And it doesn't mean that you need them for money or something, but something. You people need each other.
You always need someone.
And if all they can think of is you've only been pounding them, then it won't be good. So I would tell myself to be nicer.
Fantastic. Well, we have quite a few messages coming through. Let me just read a few of them.
Okay.
Odoy in Tema says he's watching live. Jamal says, Jamaica love. All right. Mercy in Tayman says, I hear Gillian's voice all the time during the city business news. It's nice to see the face behind the voice.
Thank you, Mercy.
And then this one says, hi, Kweku, please tell her we enjoyed her sessions on the Traffic Avenue. This is Mabel watching from Dansoman.
Okay.
So
Thank
actually
you,
people are
Mabel.
watching from all over the place. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, final words for us before you leave.
I think I would say that I would wish that people would just, you know, one of the things that I feel is lacking a lot is the confidence. I wish people would believe in themselves more. And especially to the young people. They come, they stand in front of you, but many older people too. And they don't believe in themselves enough to believe that they can be great and they can do amazing things. So generally people set the bar for themselves too low.
Okay.
Too low. So my closing comment would be, anybody who is listening, whatever bar you have set for yourself, raise it 10 times.
Raise the bar.
Raise
10
it.
times.
Raise it, because we are capable. We are capable. So.
Absolutely. Well, if you're watching, you heard that. Raise the bar 10 times higher because you're actually capable. We've been speaking with Gillian Hammah as a personality for the week this weekend. She is the Group Chief Marketing Officer for Databank Group.